Rev up your engines. Okay, today we got a new 4Runner. Well, it's got 3,500 miles on it. It's pretty new, yeah? And the guy figures it's the last vehicle he's ever going to buy. And he bought this one that was made in the end of 2023 because he didn't like what they're changing them into. And of course, that's what's under the hood. A 4-liter, totally reliable V6 Toyota engine. Beauty covers, flop that up. There's the engine, you can see all the metal, timing chain, there's no rubber timing belts, lots of working room if it ever does break on when you have to work on it. And of course, this baby is made in Japan. Got a J, even says made in Japan. Sad but true, Toyota says they're going to be getting rid of the V6 engines in these and put in a Turbo 4 or a hybrid 4 system. Now, not only does it have the ultra-reliable Toyota V6 4-liter engine, it often has the extremely reliable 5-speed automatic transmission. Now, people are always on the fence here. Should I get a transmission with 1,000,000 speeds or less speeds? What should I do? Well, they're going to replace these with Turbo 4s and 8-speed transmissions. 8 or 9 speeds, whatever they decide they're going to put in. The weird thing is, the gas mileage doesn't change all that much. These are relatively heavy vehicles. It doesn't matter how many speeds you put on, it's still pulling a lot of weight. And to give you a perfect example, my son's 2023 Tacoma TRD that has the V6 engine in it, it actually gets better gas mileage than customers I have with the 2024 TRD Tacoma that has the turbo. Even though they got a turbo, it's a 4-cylinder engine, you'd think you get better gas mileage, but it's pulling a heavy vehicle. And you're going to get the same gas mileage just about. He actually gets a mile better than my neighbor does with the Turbo 4. He gets in his V6 because the V6s are set up pretty well. They're power matched to them. You don't get that crazy shifting all the time, hunting in between gears because you got too many gears. These are very good transmissions. You get a big vehicle, don't expect to get phenomenal gas mileage. For example, he doesn't even know what his gas mileage is. He just puts gas in it and drives it around. He didn't like the original ride, so he's put on those Bilstein shocks on it, and it rides a lot better. We'll see when we drive it around. It's still a solid vehicle. Made in Japan. It's got a big old differential in it. It's not some wimpy little CV axles coming out of the back. And you can see, real full frame. The frame is not part of the body. It's not unibody. It's an actual framed vehicle. Framed vehicles are always getting a little bit worse gas mileage because they weigh more. But if you want something that can last forever, you want a framed vehicle. For instance, I've had customers with them. They get in wrecks. They fix them. Right? That unibody gets really in a decent wreck. It's the end of the car. You throw away unibody cars. This is an actual frame. You can fix just about anything. And the frame's so solid, unless you get in a massive wreck, generally the frames don't get any damage to them at all, and you just fix the rest of the vehicle. With that solid steel frame, they're going to have a lot less problem with rust as they age. Even somewhat light rust eventually can destroy a unibody construction. But with that thick steel frame, hey, rust is not going to destroy those things. Now, Toyota did have quite a few Tacomas and Tundras where the frames rusted away. But this was made in Japan. All of the rusted frame Tundras and Tacomas were made in the United States, and Toyota did not make the frames. Those frames were made in the United States by an American company, which Toyota sued and got millions and millions of dollars from them for making bad frames, not coating them right and having them rust. These never had that problem because these have always been made in Japan. So you got solid Japanese-made steel. Basically, these things can run forever. Now, he bought it for $45,700, which was a few hundred below suggested list price. So he got a good price on this thing. Since they're going to the 4-cylinder engines, unless Toyota changes their minds after all the problems that they're having with them, maybe they'll change their mind, who knows? But if they don't change their minds, this would be one of the last great 4Runners ever made. Because from what they say about the new 4Runners is they're going to be smaller, they're not going to be this size. And the reason people often buy these 4Runners is because of the size. Nice and spacey. Check it out. Lots of room. Tons of room here too. With the seats down, you got even more room. You can have a picnic on the bumper. It's so big. And with the V6 engine, you can really tow a lot. The towing rating of Turbo 4s, they give them kind of a false idea of what they can tow. They just pull differently. When the turbo kicks in, it's not like the smooth transition of a V6. The reason they came out with V engines in the first place was for the extra pulling power. That's why Ford made the V8s. The original Ford V8s didn't have that much horsepower, but they had a decent amount of torque. You get a turbocharged engine, it doesn't get that torque until it starts spinning faster, and you know, you're towing stuff, you're starting from scratch, you're not revving the engine up and then doing burnouts, right? It takes a while for it to build it up. With these 6-cylinder engines, I've seen 4Runners with 350,000 miles that still run almost exactly the same as they did when they were brand new. Now, a couple years back, I've seen some problems with these engines. Let's see if this one has any. They did have a problem with some of the engines clacking on them, but they've obviously fixed it in the newer ones because I haven't seen that same problem. Something was wrong with the production of the engines, and this model doesn't have it. It's working fine. And again, this baby's made in Japan, right? I see a lot of the ones that had problems with their engines, they were made in Mexico. I don't care what anybody says, Mexico is not the land of high quality workmanship. I would not personally want to buy a vehicle made in Mexico. This thing was made in Japan by Japanese people, and they seem to have done a really good job. We road tested, we'll get the feel and everything on it, and I imagine it's going to ride even better than the stock ones, because he did put those Bilstein shocks on. First thing I noticed, sounds solid. Got a nice compass you can see here. You don't have to look around, it's right there. Some of the Toyotas with those ugly intrusive screens, the screen is built in. Nice wide backup camera. There's my garage, right? It's not intrusive, it's well made. You don't have to be a computer scientist to operate it. AC, look, then simple clicks to put it where you want. Heat, air conditioning, all very easy to access. The 4-wheel drive system, look, a nice lever. Not some stupid electric buttons that are gonna break down. A nice lever, solid, like a real truck, which is what this is. It's a truck turned into a SUV. It's got a very dependable 5-speed transmission. If you want, you can shift it manually. You can see there, 1, 2, 3, 4. Doesn't have paddle shifters, it's just got you shift it with this, like a real shifter. Got heated seats, left and right. It's nicely set up. So let's take it for a spin. We'll put the AC on a little, because it is hot out here. This is a 4Runner, pretty much a truck, so we can fly over the bumps here. It's a giant bump. Now, we'll see how it handles with the Bilsteins. I've driven them without Bilsteins. We'll see if it's got a little bit of a better ride to it. It's got all the modern tech. It shows that the speed limit is 25, which I find interesting because when I was driving the Tesla Cybertruck down the same road, it said the speed limit was 35 miles an hour, but it isn't. It's 25. So the Toyota system's better than the Super Cybertruck that was lying about the speed limit. Great software there, Elon. So we'll wait for the bicyclists. Nobody's coming. Here we go. Definitely has acceleration. Really. That V6 has smooth acceleration, 5-speed transmission, shifts like a dream. You really don't think you're driving a truck. I gotta say, the Bilsteins he put on it really do make it ride better. I can't argue that. Set up like this, it rides more like a car than the older 4Runners did, which were rather trucky. Their ride left something to be desired, so if you are thinking about getting one of these, you might do like what he did and throw a set of Bilsteins on it. I think it's a shame that Toyota's getting rid of the V6 engine in these, at least they say they are, replacing it with a Turbo 4. That's a completely different animal. It just doesn't have the feel, especially for people that are towing boats or going out in the country somewhere. Hey, this thing's set up for 4-wheel drive if you want. Do you really want a Turbo 4 and a 4-wheel drive, or do you want this extremely smooth power band and smooth shifting of the V6 with a 5-speed automatic? Sometimes it's too many gears or just too many, and I have people with them and they say, oh, it feels like it's hunting for gears at certain speeds. This thing is not hunting for gears. It knows what gear it's in. If you want to accelerate harsh, it'll set that. If you want to go smooth, it'll set that. It's just completely different with the Turbo 4. with a multi-speed transmission in it. Of course, this is a real transmission with gears. This is not a CVT. So now you know what's in these 4Runners, at least until 2025 when they get rid of the V6 engines. You're looking for a vehicle that's probably going to last a really long time with an actual frame that can take it. You can go off-road with them because the frame is solid. You don't have to worry about a unibody construction thing plopping on, breaking down. It's got a real steel solid frame so that if you get in a medium-sized accident, instead of saying, oh, goodbye car, you end up getting it fixed because you like it and it still runs good. Guy down the street hit a curb with his Tesla. Hit a curb, right front wheel. They totaled the car. That was the 30,000-mile car. They totaled it because, well, it broke the motor on the right front wheel, but then it dented the battery, so it was going to be 30-something grand to fix it, so they junked the car. This, you can keep fixing these things forever if anything happens. And they just hold up. It's such a shame that Toyota's getting rid of their V6 engines. I think it's a big mistake, just as it was to go from the Tundra V8 to a V6. Why would you go from a V6 to a Turbo 4? You know, it's stupid. They're still making the V6 engines, right? Although they're having a problem with the ones they're putting in the Tundras, with them blowing up, right? Hey, they're still making V6s. Please, Toyota, will you put them back in these things and stop trying to downsize everything because they really don't get any better gas mileage. A Turbo 4 uses more gas because the turbos spin if you drive fast, and a Turbo 4 will actually get worse gas mileage than this thing with just a regular non-Turbo 6. That's just how it is in the real world, not some fantasy EPA rating gas mileage. The real world, you want a V6 engine in one of these things. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.